Welcome back to On the Edge with me, Theo Chalmers, and I'm back now with my special guest Doyle Shamley, who's in Arizona. And we've said goodbye to Robert, I'm afraid, for the time being. Doyle, in the break there, we were talking about the ecology, climate change movement, and you had some thoughts about that. Would you like to elucidate?
Yes, the environmental movement is really it's really a world socialist front. It's being used to promulgate agendas of people control. You can see that through the Rio de Janeiro summits, the biosphere treaties. You see its implementation and usage through Agenda 21 of the United Nations, travel management rules, the FAO at the UN, global warming. Global warming is a joke. Now, Bill and I did a conference back in '97 or so, and Bill there expounded on the ozone hoax. Now, you might remember the ozone being the big deal, but if you look at the origins of the leftist socialist environmental movement, originally it was global cooling, okay? And they promulgated that and pushed that in the '70s. We'd all be wearing gas masks by the early '80s due to air pollution. Global cooling wasn't dynamic or scary enough. So they changed it to global warming. And now they've gone and changed it to climate change because they know that they're full of crap. Because essentially, there's been constant changes in our weather. They have no good baseline to base massive changes, as they put it, in temperature when they don't have any recordings for millions of years. And temperature, or just climate change as they've generically went to, now it doesn't matter what it does, it's going to fit their agenda. It can go up a degree today and down a degree tomorrow. It's climate change. Carbon credits, cap and trade and tax credits, all that, it's about people control. Has nothing to do with saving the environment.
So, do you think that there is global warming anyway?
No. I do not think there's a consistent pattern of global warming at all. In fact, there's provable cycles up and down using real science. And in fact, there's actually an average cooling of our global atmosphere. The ice is thickening on several ice sheets. It's not melting away. And in fact, there's some basic scientific principles that you learn in grade school that disprove a lot of their theories. For instance, the Greenland ice sheets melting would cover the Earth with water. The simple fact is, when ice melts, I forget the exact scientific term right now, it does not increase in volume. We're talking about a sphere, a diameter or circumference. As you increase that diameter, which would have to happen as water melted and expanded, the diameter and circumference increases. It can't do as much impact. It's a statistical fact. If you want proof of that, get a glass of ice water. Here's the 7th grade science trick. Mark a line where the top of the level is. Let all the ice melt in the glass, and now measure the new level.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? Because ice uniquely gets bigger when it freezes. When water freezes, it gets bigger, and therefore it floats. And in fact, that's an extraordinary thing, because if it didn't float, the seas would be full of ice from the bottom up, wouldn't they? Because it would freeze, sink, and the oceans would fill up with ice. So I guess in that respect, we're quite lucky. But I do take on board what you're saying. So you're saying that man, by burning carbon fuels, is not contributing to significant climate change?
No. And in fact, their own science is proving that on the left, and there's been several people who've come out to speak against it that were in the scientific fields of climate change, as it's called now, that have said point blank they were led with directives to write reports through the World Health Organization, etc. All of Al Gore's anomalies and scams through his investment groups is just a get-rich-quick scheme for him and his friends. They've come out and spoken. In fact, I watched congressional hearings where that scumbag Al Gore was there speaking, and anytime there was an opponent to speak against him, they were gavelled down and not allowed to, whereas him and his cohorts went 9 and 10 minutes over their allotted time.
Okay, so what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is that it's just another control mechanism for the population of North America and presumably the world. That, you know, it's a new threat. It's we have all these threats all the time: terrorism, bioterrorism, or natural events like flu, pandemics, global warming. All these things need to be legislated against, and it's all about control. Yes, it is. And the assault, one of the core functions of Agenda 21, Biosphere Treaties, North American Union, Canamex highways, on and on and on, is the attack on private property rights. Now, the way to push a lot of this through is to use these think tanks and non-government organizations, NGOs. Their leftist agenda is to push through using fear, like global warming, flu pandemics, excessive population, to justify population reduction, seizure of private property rights, private business, private commerce, and socialize everything in the name of the outright lie, which is an oxymoron, really. We're here from the government. We're here to help you. But if you're so in favour of private business, I mean, your colleague, Rob Houghton, just now was talking about the Illuminati controlling these big corporations and, you know, having their logos in your face showing who they really were. How can you reconcile the free business and the success of these huge companies and the power that they wield with your desire to have freedom for business? Well, there's nothing wrong with free enterprise. Free enterprise is what promotes growth. Growth promotes intellect, education. It promotes posterity and prosperity both. Now, Rob's work into symbolism and what a major corporation uses. If you choose to fall subject to some symbol they use or some indoctrination, a person, not you, Theo, a person chooses to fall subject to that through ignorance, that's their own fault. I didn't make them go buy a given product, let's say from Lucent Technologies. If you're dumb enough to support that, then so be it. But then you have to accept the ramifications of that also. But don't push the ramifications of that on the free enterprise system or on everybody else around you in the world. Are you saying that excessive power corrupts these corporations, or that they're part, instead of some secret organization, that they're all in some brotherhood that is determined to say, you know, cut the population of the planet, make us into a slave state, and so on? Yes, actually it's a little bit of both. You have to realize that there's probably plenty of young college graduates who are statisticians, accountants, computer programmers, etc. And when you get into these large organizations, it's like anything else. There's to a certain point, your promotion and your rise ends unless you toe the line. So a lot of them sell out and begin towing the line, if you will. Or you can quit and leave. Now, as far as like a cabal, if you will, an evil brotherhood, whatnot, there is no doubt about collusion amongst NGOs and multinational corporations towards socialism. It's provable time and time again, and you're seeing a lot of it right now. You have for decades, but you're seeing an immense push right now in America, for instance. The government has no business getting into Chrysler, GM, I don't care what it is, bailing them out or dictating to them how they're going to run their companies. Now, when the government starts dictating contractual agreements, supply and demand, guess what? That's one of the planks of communism. And if you let the government, if you take that check as a corporation, Chrysler, let's say, takes that check, you're now in a contractual agreement. You've just made, for instance, GM shouldn't be General Motors anymore. It should be Government Motors, because you've entered into a contractual agreement. Contractual law is one of the most powerful rights we have in this world. And so if you enter in that by taking that Babylonian money,
then you have to live up to your side of it.
And isn't it your money as well, as a citizen of the United States? Isn't it your money that they're giving to these companies?
Yes, as far as anything like bailout monies, yes, it is. It would be my money, my neighbor's money, etc. But the simple fact is let's be honest and look truthfully at any of these agendas. If the government takes over a given banking branch or segment of industry or a given automobile company, do you honestly think that they're going to use our bailout money, bolster that particular industry, get it on sound footing, make GM profitable, for instance, and then take all the revenues and all the profit and redistribute it back to everybody as if we were investors and stockholders? No, it will not happen. It's this Ponzi scheme.
So it's basically theft, isn't it?
It is theft, because if you can continually steal from people, you get from the point where you have not a parent in the home, you've got maybe both parents out working. Then guess what? The child is totally reared by state or government-controlled misinformation system, the public fool system, I like to call it. And then you constantly rob them more and more and more, and there's a point that you can eventually break people enough where they can no longer resist at all.
So let's get back to William Cooper then, because William Cooper was killed by sheriffs, American sheriffs or county sheriffs.
Yes.
Let's talk about that. How did that happen? Was that murder?
Yes, because what it comes down to is this. The original plan for the raid was it's in the very beginnings of the reports that we have. We have all the public reports that were ever released in our possession. The original raid was planned for 9/11. Now, they said due to security concerns in the report, they canceled that raid. I believe that's due to us having been live on the air reporting on 9/11 for 10 hours consecutively. They couldn't do a raid, or it would have been live as well, broadcast. Now, if you look at how the night went down, the local police, as in our city, municipality, Eager, what have you, were not contacted till the whole event was done and over. Now, the sheriff's tactical team, led by Tafoya was his name, Deputy Tafoya, they met at around 6 p.m., got together at a reconnoiter area, went up there in a unmarked pickup with people laying in the floorboards of the truck, underneath tarps in the back of the truck, and pretended with loud music to be just a bunch of people making noise and causing a ruckus at the end of the road. White Bill went out to approach them. They knew this would probably lure him out. They had people approaching and surrounding the house on foot. When he told them point blank, I am going to call Eager Police Department and have you guys arrested, because remember, they were unidentified. They never identified themselves who they are. So he thought they were just hoodlums. Now, as soon as he said, I'm going to call the Eager Police, they should have identified themselves and said what they were there for if there was some lawful purpose, because he was voluntarily going to use law enforcement. He never made a threat. When he went back to the house to make that call is when they started ambushing him, jumping out from behind shrubs, out in his yard. He ran for the house. They claimed that he shot Officer Marinas, but the angles and where everybody was standing do not work out. They also shot him several times in the back. We had an autopsy expert on the air who reviewed all the autopsy reports out of Tucson, and there's conclusive proof that he was unable to react due to the injuries, yet afterwards there was gunpowder stippling, which is gunpowder burns on the skin due to close range, point blank as it's defined, shooting of him after he was unable to do any action. So they went up and assassinated him. And then when the Eager Police was finally called, and I had moved down the street maybe just 6 to 7 months prior, we could see each other's house though. When they arrived at my house and blockaded my street and came to my doorstep, they point blank told me that in the briefings they received from the sheriff's deputies that the deputies did this engagement in the middle of the night under such a ruse because they did not want to deal with the standoff like Waco or Ruby Ridge. And they told the local officers and the chief, when they were finally called and woke up out of bed that this occurred in their town, that besides them not wanting any sort of standoff or media attention, that they were not going to allow Bill Cooper back in his house alive because he could get on the air.
Doyle,
so that's premeditated.
I'm going to have to end it there. I'm really sorry. That's all we've got time for. Thank you to everyone for watching our special show. Thanks to my very special guests, Doyle Shamley and Robert Houghton from Hour of the Time. If you'd like to catch up with their output, visit www.houroftetime.com. If you've enjoyed this show, please tell all your friends. Next week, we'll be back with another exciting show that might even change your life. You'll find more details on www.edgemedia.com. Just remember, they're watching you, watching us, watching them. Cheerio.